How important is condensation management? Now, in the past, there's been very little consideration for proper ventilation of ceiling spaces. A lot of people think that installing a few whirlybirds will do the trick. We have to consider where moisture is first generated, and it's usually through the bathroom exhaust. People didn't take much attention to ventilating the bathrooms. So there's an exhaust fan, but the air from the bathroom just goes into the ceiling cavity. It doesn't vent outside. And this is because there's no dedicated ductwork that takes the moisture through the duct and is then vented outside, either through a whirlybird or a vent. So what happens if you don't do this? Take this typical concrete tile roof, and it's got whirlybirds installed in it. But the whirlybirds are not directly above the bathroom. Although if it was, it wouldn't have made a lot of difference. So if you open the tiles up, you'll see that the tiles themselves have mold on it, and the underside of the tile will be wet. And it's because if you look down into the ceiling cavity, you see the old bathroom exhaust fan. And what happens is that all the moist air gets pumped up into the ceiling cavity, hits the cold surface of the underside of the tile, and then condensation forms. And then it starts to drip onto the ceiling. There's one saving grace, and if the ceiling is insulated properly with good bats, the bats actually soak up any condensation that falls on it, and the condensation water doesn't reach the surface of the ceiling. And in the next drying cycle, the moisture then evaporates, and you don't get a problem with a moldy ceiling. So this is the reason why there are so many roofs that are not ventilated properly have survived, because they've been insulated properly. So now that we're into the new BASIX age, we now have to vent all bathrooms through a duct which expels air out of the roof and not into the roof cavity. We will see how this actually works out and whether we have to retrofit a lot of the old roofs that have insufficient ventilation systems for bathrooms. Even quite new roofs, like this one for instance, there's provision for venting the bathroom out in under the eaves, if you can look at this picture. But when we took the roof off, we saw that the duct was not even connected to the exhaust fan. It was just lying loose, and obviously the person who put the exhaust duct in didn't think it was that important to actually connect the duct. So we see this quite often where ducts that are meant to be connected to exhaust fans aren't even connected at all, simply because the tradesmen who are installing the systems have no idea as to the importance of properly ventilating bathrooms and the like. So how important is ventilating the roof space? Well, it hasn't been that important so far, but based on the amount of mold in the last few years when it's been really wet, there's a lot more people who are aware of mold issues, and the recent BASIX rules will help compliance.